stood out to you from the last two games?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I think we talked about it in West Virginia, and it was like, we're so results oriented, and we should be, but you're also looking at the process. And so I think, for whatever reason, we didn't run the ball real well the first 2 weeks, and there's no magic formula other than just execution and not losing confidence in something if you know that you've got the pieces to do it well. So I think we've blocked well. The running backs have read the runs well, and broken tackles when we needed to, and it's been a big part of why we won those last two games. So I think first two games are a lot of positive things that you could see within a run play, and there might have been one breakdown here, or maybe the running back didn't hit the hole the way you wanted him to, and you just keep working at it because you got the players to make it work. Hopefully we can keep that up.
In terms of getting the Greg Dawson more active in the passing game, is this something he can do better, or is it something you guys
Yeah, I think we're always, as you're going through the game plan, and you design the plays you're going to work. There's people that you anticipate will be first in the progression, and then you might get a different coverage, you might get a different pass rush gets to you before the play can express itself. So all the guys have plays that are for them, so to speak. When you install it, they see that they're first in the progression, and for whatever reason it hadn't worked out, but just like we talked about in the run game, you go through the process and keep trying to get your best players the ball. So I don't think there's anything specific. It's just keep working and look at the big picture. Don't get caught up in the short term.
Coach, how impressive have you been with Alex Palczewski's first two games that he started?
Yeah, very impressed. We talked about it last week. This guy, started, I think he set a record for most games played in college, and he just knows how to play the game. And I think we kind of anticipated that he'd be able to hang in there and be productive. You don't know for sure until you really see the live bullets, and he's kind of lived up to those expectations. And it's fun to watch when you have a guy that, late draft picks or free agents that are able to come in and compete at that level and compete well. It's very exciting.
What is about Vance Joseph as a coach, just being on the same staff with him?
Yeah, I love Vance. He's one of my all-time favorites. He's just, he's another guy. He doesn't get caught up in the short term. There was after the Miami game last year, there was no panic in Vance. He knows what he's doing. He's been around, and certainly whenever we're not having success, we look at things and try to make adjustments. But he's just a steady, fundamentally sound coach, and I never had any questions that this is where he was going to get the defense. So he's the best.
We used to see Keith Talib on Rob Gronkowski. Any ideas of Pat Surtain on Brock Bowers? Does he have to cover a team's number one wide receiver or their number one weapon?
Well, I would say to that, every game plan is different, obviously, and when we do game plan, is always to start what they do best. And it's through people. So having a plan for Bowers, having a plan for Myers, having a plan for the quarterback, it's all the same. So every week it's a game plan to do it all. So where Patrick goes, where Riley goes, is always it's a thought process, and it's what's best to get them stopped weekly. So it's never one way.
Vance, there's a lot of worry with Alex right now, right?
Sure.
And then just yesterday, at first play, he comes in on the blitz.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like by design, kind of like show everyone that it's going to be, the defense is going to be okay.
Not by design, Mike. Again, it's a game plan, and it was a weekly plan to, just get our backers downhill on certain looks in a run-in pass game. So it wasn't by design for a person. It was more about the game plan. Again, it's back to the game plan question. It's what weekly it takes to get them stopped, and every week it changes.
does. Could you speak on like what Jonathan Cooper is ultimately is?
Again, man, Coop's been a joy to coach, his last 2 years. He's the same person every day. His energy, his toughness, his focus is always on point. So he's a guy that allows you to change the culture because, how he works every day on and off the field is contagious, and guys have to match his intensity. So he's been that way for 2 years I've been here, and it doesn't change on game day, man. He is a fully engaged, full speed, physical player.
You mentioned that you've always felt that this team has the pass rushers, it has the guys up front that may not have that national recognition. When they start getting that, whether it's Coop or Zach Allen, is that rewarding for you that these guys are starting to get used?
Yeah, I mean, it's cool. We have a defense full of just young guys who are mostly self-made. We've got one first-round pick, and that's Patrick, who's a really good player. Everyone else are pretty self-made guys who are just grinders, and that's helped our process, of working hard and being smart, studying, and just doing it right, and playing together and being team-first guys. So it's a group of self-aware, young, hungry guys who are still trying to reach for more, So I don't have a problem of motivating guys, keeping guys humble, man, because it's there every day. Again, we got one guy, Pat, who's a first rounder. Everyone else are just self-made guys.
Like 20 yards.
Want to get better every day.
Vance, Joe Lombardi was a moment ago, and he praised your ability to have a short-term memory when things aren't going well. Has that been a process for you as a coach? Is that something you've always prided yourself on?
It better be for anybody in this league, from players to coaches. You kind of, you just move on from the bat quickly. I mean, and you learn that. Even on Mondays with players. My goal on Mondays for our players is to reset those guys. Just get them back to a mental baseline. Even if it's good, you have to get back to that baseline to correct. To have the self-awareness to see the problems, because you don't play perfect games. Even Sunday, man, it was a lot of mistakes Sunday that no one saw, but we see them, and we really coach the mistakes, more than we coach the great plays, so to speak. So every week we're chasing perfection, and I have never coached or played a perfect football game, so it's always escaping you, So it's always something to coach, and that's Mondays in this league, right? The teams who lose, who can't get back to emotional baseline, they can't correct, right? They can't win again next week, right? That loss is going to cost you 2 or 3 losses if you don't get back to baseline. So it's the same when you win. Once you win, man, you go through the tape and you really coach the wrong. That way you can fix it, because if it's on tape Sunday, that following week, it's going to show up again. So we spend a bunch of time on correcting and keeping guys focused on what's next.
Coach, has Brandon Jones exceeded your expectations when you guys signed him?
I can't say that. I mean, he's a good player. That's why we signed him. I mean, he's a veteran player that's always had good tape. His problem has been health. He's finally healthy. He's making plays. He's always been a guy who's been a great blitzer. He's had great range and ball skills. So that's what we see from this player. That's why we signed him.
You obviously been around this town a long time. Going against the Raiders, what does that mean to this organization, to you? How do you try to explain that to your guys?
I think overall for us, it's the next game, but I get it. I mean, it's been a rivalry for a long time. It's a fun rivalry. I went to school in Boulder, and I would watch it every year. It would happen. But for our team, it's the next game. It's the first game in division at home. After 3 out of 4 on the road, man, it's good to be home and to have most of our guys healthy and ready to play. So I think the excitement comes from let's play again. That feeling's pretty good after you win games. So being home is fun. Divisional game is obviously fun, and playing the Raiders is always fun.
Hey, how you doing? Nice to be back after a couple-week vacation in front of the home crowd, and good opportunity here against the Raiders divisional team. So, questions?
Just how proud of you were you of Justin to see him shine on defense like that? Starting out so good on special teams. What was that moment like?
Yeah, really happy to see him do well, not only for him, but for our defense and our team, and just not only a good player, but an even better person. And so, when you do transition a little bit from playing more on special teams to the defense, there's more on your plate. So it's a testament to him and his preparation that he was able to perform at a high level, and we're looking forward to him continuing to do that throughout the year.
we ask you sometimes about like Will's line and where he'd be good to kick from. Do you ever chime in with Vance and say like, hey, we think the other kicker might be good from here, or we've got to...
Absolutely, sure. That's part of the situational football. So that line that you're speaking of works two ways. That's also a dynamic line, that moves based on the conditions. And obviously last Sunday in challenging conditions with some rain, a little bit of wind, but it provided a challenge. But yes, in the pregame and as you're watching throughout the course of the game, you're not only getting the information from Will, but we're also evaluating how those conditions are going to affect the opponent's kicker.
When you observe Vance Joseph and how he coaches his players, why do you think he gets so much buy-in and why that group is playing so well?
Oh, Vance does a great job. I think that he connects with the players and is a really good communicator. And I think that it's kind of cool because we got so many of our players that play for his. So, there's a lot of complimentary football that goes on there and complimentary coaching. And so Coach Joseph and I are in discussions all the time, not only about personnel, but how we're going to attack the opposition. So I'm just real fortunate to have him with because he's got a lot of knowledge, not only just about defense, but about football in general. So Vance is a good friend.
You coached in New York for a long time. Is that building or just that region notorious for the forecast sort of not always aligning with what you think it's going to be? Because there's a lot of people that said it was different.
Yeah, to your point, yes, I coached in New York for a handful of years, and so you do deal with the elements up there, especially later in the year. I don't know if you ever get used to it, but it's just something that you have to be aware of. And obviously, Sunday presented some challenges there, but New York was a great place to coach, and you do deal with that dynamic, week in and week out.
Downing punts at the one, you guys have done that a bunch of times this year already. Is that something when you see that skill set, you can then have Riley be more aggressive in terms of hitting it toward the goal line, or are they kind of unrelated?
Yeah, no, I think the best part about all that is when you're working on something in practice and you see it come to fruition in the game. And so that is something that in the off season and in training camp and here in the early season, we always talk about complementary football. We often talk about winning the field position game, and so that's a huge element of it. And you're seeing just a higher percentage of these punts being closer to midfield. So as much as you want hang time, over distance, with direction, it's also the ability to down the opponent, which we've been successful at multiple times, inside not only the 20-yard line, but the 10 or the 5. And fortunately, it's paid off for us.
To follow up on Justin, it seems like that defense really seamlessly transitioned with him in there. Does that speak to his preparation and just all the stuff he does to stay ready to play defense even in weeks?
Yeah, and it's vice versa, right? So, you have to, those players that have a good amount on their plate on the special team side and also on the defensive side, you got to tip your hat to them. I think that one of the hardest positions that goes unbeknownst is that third safety, that third linebacker. Why? Because, hey, the starter is playing, but if the starter breaks a chin strap on play 10, well, he's got to go play defense, and he's yet a core special teams guy. So, again, just as I had mentioned a few minutes ago, I think it speaks to the quality of person that he is, that he was prepared to do that. And, again, you've got a handful of guys like that. J.L. Skinner, who's played the third safety, Devin Key, who's played the third safety. There's a handful of guys that are in those spots where not only do they need to know one side of the ball, whether it's special teams, but you also have to know both sides of the ball, special teams and defense, or special teams and offense. So he's done a great job, and excited to watch him go on Sunday.
It can be easy to lose track of the first, I think, as the year goes along. But when you have a guy like Lavelle Bailey who makes his NFL debut, do you pay any extra attention? Yeah, we recognize it. Just a tip of the hat to him, the track that he's gotten to get to where he's at, and his work is paying off. And he won't be the last one. This is a long grind throughout this season. We often talk about the practice squad and the active roster. That is a whole group that is going to impact the game. It's not a matter of if they're going to be key participants and key contributors. It's a matter of when his number got called, and he done a good job. Very good young player, and just love the way that that player works.
Is it pretty standard that most of the practice squad guys are in your special teams meetings because of the way the roster adjusts?
Absolutely, and I think I might have mentioned this a little bit last week. I tip my hat to Coach Banjo and the work that he does with those players specifically. But yes, to your point, they're in all the meetings, they participate, all the practices and such. And you just, again, at that spot, you just never know when your number is going to be called. And so we're just very fortunate to have quality players and quality people that not only take the game seriously, but specifically special teams. And I think that's been a key contributor to our success. We've been pretty good the last 2 years, and got to carry that forward on Sunday.